Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's session. The end of human compliance. Should AI run the risk office? I'm Gidget, your host for today's Lunch and Learn, and we're thrilled to have a full room of fintech leaders, compliance professionals, and innovators joining us. This conversation is going to challenge a few assumptions, especially around what it means to trust compliance in the age of automation. Before we dive in, a quick housekeeping note. You can drop questions in the chat anytime. We'll run a couple of live polls throughout the session, and yes, the replay and summary will be shared after. Now let's meet our speakers. First up, we have Gina, CEO of LockTrust, a company building the next generation identity and payments infrastructure, bridging traditional finance and decentralized systems. Hi, Gina. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Gidget. Excited for this one. This topic hits close to home. We're watching automation reshape every layer of financial infrastructure, and compliance is right at the center of that transformation.
And joining us as our guest expert is Jean-Marc, fintech infrastructure investor and advisor.
Thanks, Gidget. Happy to be here. I love conversations that make people a little uncomfortable, and this one definitely does that.
Perfect. We've got the right crew then. Let's jump in. So, let's start with the big question. Compliance used to be manual and rule-based, then risk-based. Now, it's data-driven. Gina, are we really on the edge of AI-driven compliance? And what does that actually look like inside a financial institution?
Yes, and in some cases, it's already happening quietly. AI is now auditing transactions, flagging anomalies, and interpreting evolving regulations in real time. What's shifting is decision-making. We're moving from humans using AI tools to AI systems proposing or even finalizing compliance actions. That's the real pivot, from assistance to authority.
Jean-Marc, from an investor's lens, is this automation push more about efficiency or risk reduction?
Honestly, both. But the balance is tricky. Investors love automation because it scales, but regulators don't like opacity. So the tension becomes, how do you explain an AI decision to a regulator who still expects a human signature at the bottom of the report?
Let's put that to our audience. What percentage of your compliance workload could already be automated today? 25%, 50%, 75%, or even 90%? While that poll runs, Jean-Marc, what's one example of automation going too far in compliance?
Sure, we've seen cases where AML systems used pattern recognition models that inadvertently redlined certain customer groups. The model wasn't wrong mathematically, but it was ethically off. That's the risk when you remove human interpretation.
Exactly. The model was technically compliant but morally blind. That's why human-in-the-loop governance remains critical.
Poll results are in. Looks like most of you said between 50% and 75%. That's a strong indicator of how far automation has already crept in. Gina, let's get bold. Imagine a world where AI does run the risk office. What changes?
Everything. Think of AI as an always-on, ultra-efficient compliance team. It can monitor every transaction in real time, detect anomalies before they escalate, summarize and interpret complex regulatory updates, generate audit-ready reports in seconds. For example, JP Morgan's Coin platform reviews thousands of contracts in seconds, work that previously took hundreds of thousands of human hours. An AI-driven risk office would operate 24/7, interpret regulation updates instantly, and monitor every transaction simultaneously. It's brilliant until it isn't, because the moment it makes an error, no one's sure who's accountable.
And investors will ask that exact question. Who's liable when an algorithm breaks a rule? The developer, the compliance officer, the board? That's why governance frameworks have to evolve faster than the tech itself.
So basically, AI is moving from a supporting role to an active decision-making role. That's huge, but I imagine it also introduces new challenges.
Yes, which brings us to the next slide. What happens when it gets it wrong?
All right, The dream scenario is an AI that never sleeps, never misses a pattern, and never gets tired. But nothing's perfect. Jean-Marc, what happens when AI fails?
Failures can be subtle or catastrophic. For example, a model might flag the wrong customers as high risk, unintentionally introducing bias. It might miss suspicious activity due to a data gap. And often, the decision-making process is opaque. Even the developers don't fully understand why the AI acted the way it did.
Exactly. This black box problem is why accountability is tricky. If an AI flags or misses a transaction incorrectly, who is responsible? The bank, the compliance officer, or the AI developer?
And that's a big deal, because regulators still expect someone human to sign off. It's a tension between speed and accountability.
Right. And investors are watching this closely. Automation promises efficiency, but without transparency, it can create legal and ethical risks.
So, AI can be a superpower for compliance, but it's not infallible. That's why we need frameworks for oversight, which we'll explore in the next slide. Let's stay on that. Gina, what are you seeing in AI oversight models?
We're seeing the rise of model governance, essentially compliance for AI. That includes testing, audit trails, and explainability requirements. But I'll say this, regulators are now expecting companies to prove how an AI made a decision, not just that it made the right one.
And that's the new compliance frontier, transparency of reasoning. Because if no one can explain the logic behind a risk flag, it's not governance, it's guesswork.
So maybe the answer isn't the end of human compliance. It's a redefinition of it. Gina, what's your take?
Absolutely. I see the future as hybrid orchestration. AI handles the data-heavy, real-time oversight. Humans guide, interpret, and adjust for context. Together, they create a compliance system that's both scalable and responsible. We call that Compliance 3.0.
And that's where the investment opportunity lies. Platforms that combine AI autonomy with human governance layers, those are the future compliance winners.
So we've seen what AI can do. It can monitor transactions, flag anomalies, even interpret regulations. But let's be clear, humans aren't obsolete. Gina, why do humans still matter in compliance?
Because AI can't interpret context or make nuanced judgments the way humans can. For example, AI can detect a suspicious transaction pattern, but it can't fully understand why a customer acted a certain way, cultural context, intent, or business reasoning. Humans provide the ethical and strategic oversight that machines simply can't replicate.
Exactly. And from an investor's perspective, the human factor is also about accountability. Regulators still require a responsible party to make judgment calls, especially in gray areas. AI can point out patterns, but humans decide which patterns matter and how to respond.
So it's really about balance. AI handles the heavy lifting, the repetitive data-intensive work, and humans handle the interpretation, ethics, and accountability.
Right, you could call it augmented compliance. Humans and AI together create a system that's fast, scalable, and responsible.
And this is where the hybrid model becomes critical. Humans guiding AI, not the other way around. Otherwise, you risk a system that's efficient but blind.
Perfect. That sets us up nicely to talk about the hybrid approach on the next slide, where AI and humans orchestrate compliance together. All right, we've covered AI's capabilities and why humans still matter. Now let's talk about the sweet spot, the hybrid risk office. Gina, what does that look like in practice?
Think of it as a partnership, not a replacement. AI handles the heavy, repetitive work, real-time monitoring, anomaly detection, and reporting. Humans handle the gray areas, interpretation, context, and final decision-making.
Exactly. From an investment standpoint, this is where the biggest efficiency gains meet accountability. The hybrid approach scales compliance operations without sacrificing trust or governance.
So it's not AI replaces humans, It's more like AI amplifies human judgment.
Yes, and the loop is continuous. AI learns from human decisions, improving accuracy over time, while humans stay in control of critical decisions and policy exceptions.
And this approach also satisfies regulators. They want evidence of oversight, not just automation. Hybrid orchestration provides both speed and accountability.
I love that term, compliance orchestration. Humans and AI working together, each doing what they do best.
Exactly. And companies that adopt this model early will set the standard for risk management in the next decade.
Great. That naturally leads us into our final section, looking ahead to 2030 and imagining what compliance might actually look like in a fully orchestrated future. Let's fast forward to 2030. What headline would you not be surprised to see?
I wouldn't be surprised to see something like first AI chief compliance officer appointed at major global bank. It sounds futuristic, but the technology is already evolving toward that level of autonomy.
Or regulators approve fully autonomous compliance platform. It sounds futuristic, but it's just a matter of trust. When machines can explain themselves, regulation will catch up. And from a regulatory perspective, we could also see headlines like regulators approve fully autonomous compliance platform. Again, this isn't science fiction. It's just a matter of trust, transparency, and governance catching up with AI capability.
Interesting. So the pace of adoption will depend not just on tech, but on how comfortable humans and regulators are with AI making critical compliance decisions.
Exactly. Trust is the limiting factor. AI can do a lot, but institutions will only go as far as they can explain, justify, and control the decisions it makes.
And that's where hybrid models come in. Even in 2030, humans guiding AI will remain essential, not to slow things down, but to ensure accountability and strategic oversight.
So the headlines might read bold and futuristic, but the reality behind them is a careful orchestration between AI power and human judgment.
And that's really the takeaway. The future of compliance isn't AI or humans. It's AI with humans orchestrating smarter, faster, and more responsible risk management.
Perfect. That's a strong vision to leave our audience with as we move into Q&A. All right, before we move to Q&A, let's summarize the key takeaways from today's discussion. Gina, what would you highlight?
First, automation is inevitable. AI is already transforming compliance operations from monitoring to reporting. Second, accountability is not optional. No matter how advanced AI gets, humans must define, oversee, and validate the decisions. And finally, humans aren't going away. We're evolving into what I like to call compliance architects, guiding AI systems and shaping the future of responsible oversight.
I'd add that the hybrid model is where the real value lies. Institutions that get the orchestration between AI and human judgment right will lead in efficiency, trust, and regulatory compliance.
Perfect. Those are 3 takeaways every compliance leader should remember: automation, accountability, and orchestration. Now it's your turn. We want to hear from you. If compliance becomes autonomous, what new risks do you foresee? Drop your thoughts in the chat and we'll highlight a few. First one, great question. How do you balance innovation and regulatory caution? Gina, want to start us off?
Sure, I actually see those two as complementary rather than competing. Innovation only scales when it's built on a framework regulators can trust. So our approach is to bring them together from the beginning. We pilot new capabilities in controlled, low-risk environments, and we design transparency into the architecture, data lineage, auditability, oversight rails. When compliance isn't an afterthought, it becomes the accelerator, not the brake. The result is innovation that moves fast, but stays aligned with regulatory expectations. So my philosophy is simple: innovate boldly, architect responsibly and bring regulators along early so they become partners in the process rather than gatekeepers at the end.
And to build on that, a lot of the balance comes from creating a shared vocabulary. Regulators don't expect perfection, they expect clarity. If you can show how a new system behaves, where the guardrails are, and how decisions are monitored, you can advance innovation without creating friction. The key is engagement early and often. Next one from the chat. What skill sets will compliance teams need by 2030? Jean-Marc, want to kick this one off?
Absolutely. By 2030, compliance will be far more technical. Teams will still need traditional regulatory fluency, but layered on top of that will be data literacy, automation design, model oversight, and real-time monitoring skills. Compliance professionals won't necessarily need to code, but they will need to understand how automated systems make decisions, how data flows across platforms, and how AI models introduce new types of risk.
These are exactly the kinds of questions leaders need to ask. It's not just about technology, it's about trust, ethics, and accountability.
Great insights. Keep the questions coming. We'll take one or two more before we end the session. Before we wrap up, Gina, Jean-Marc, any final thoughts or well wishes for our audience as we head into the holidays?
Absolutely, Gidget. Everyone, thank you for joining today, for your curiosity, engagement, and thoughtful questions. As we approach Thanksgiving, I hope you get a chance to pause, enjoy time with loved ones, and reflect on what you're grateful for this year.
I could not agree more. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone, and happy holidays ahead. May your celebrations be full of joy, and may 2026 bring continued innovation, collaboration, and success, both personally and professionally.
Beautifully said. From all of us here, thank you again for being part of this conversation. Happy holidays, and a reminder, we'll be sending a recording of this session along with a summary of the key points and resources for further reading, including LockTrust's Global Identity Infrastructure Report 2025. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and keep orchestrating compliance for the future.